Now, as you look at the different ways that these happen, there's three main variations to these transactions that are kicked off in person in what's called day one, or the first version of this ISO standard. One of the main differences is whether the devices are connected, whether they're online, connected to the internet, or offline. And in the online case, there's the opportunity for server retrieval of the data, going back to the issuing authority server to pull the data. And when they're not, there's the opportunity for device-to-device transfer of the data. Either one, the signatures apply. And this can be kind of the largest factor in how you assemble the use case and how you want to accept MDLs. Online, empirically, seems to be a little quicker than doing the device-to-device transfer. As Wi-Fi Ware comes online, that may increase the speed up of the data transfer. But sometimes devices are simply not connected to the internet. So there always needs to be, at minimum, a fallback mode, or even the verifier can choose to do the device-to-device transfer. You can go ahead to the next one. Another variation here is whether there is a human attendant for this operation or it's unattended. Now, in day one ISO, the assumption is that there is a human attendant, that the portrait that is signed, the portrait would be transmitted or retrieved, and that human attendant would take a look at the portrait, take a look at the MDL holder, the person who's presenting, and perform the identity verification. So you may need a display device to show that photo. It is possible, of course, after checking the signature, to run some sort of biometric or capture hardware on the terminal, on the point of sale device, and perform identity verification that way to do a biometric match. Certainly is possible to do that in day one. As day two, this is the next version, about a year from first publication comes out, the ISO group will extend into user authentication. And so you could potentially trust the user device to perform user authentication, use the MDL application for that, or perhaps even then that could extend over to online login type services. So attended, unattended is another variation. If you can click to the next slide, please. And really one of the big ones as well is that there's the distance at which these transactions can happen. In day one, the expectation is that you would be nearby to the reader device. The MDL holder and the MDL will be nearby to the reader device. Obviously, so there's the two ways that these kick off are with an NFC tap or with the QR code scan. Both of those obviously require some different distances. And then as well, when we get to day two, we'll start to extend the range of those so that you can kick these transactions off over distance. You could have a Bluetooth service, the verifier could have a Bluetooth service, the MDL can detect that and kick off the transactions from more distant, perhaps even Wi-Fi Ware, and we'll also look at online login. You can also see that the sometimes use cases may have multiple interactions within the same use case. And I'll use the example of online alcohol delivery, where you would go to the website, potentially log in with your mobile driver's license account, order, and then when the delivery person shows up at your door, you would then present your MDL again. Perhaps that's through a tap or QR code scan, but there can be multiple interactions that happen within a use case.